Long Island medium star Theresa Caputo's critical moment in life. Ex-husband Larry Caputo stands by her side. Long Island medium star Theresa Caputo has been in a deep crisis. She was recently diagnosed with a tumor in her stomach, and she is currently hospitalized. Doctors say she needs immediate surgery, but Theresa is overcome with fear and anxiety as she faces this difficult situation. At that moment, her ex-husband Larry Caputo stands by her side. Forgetting all the past insults, he comforts Theresa and gives her courage. Larry sympathizes with her during this difficult time and assures her that she is not alone. Theresa's fans are praying for her speedy recovery, and everyone hopes that after this difficult time, she will return to a healthy and normal life. Theresa Caputo sat in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind clouded with fear. The doctors had told her the truth: she had a tumor in her stomach, and surgery was her only option. But fear gripped her chest like a vice, making it hard to breathe. She had always been strong, always the one comforting others, giving them hope. But now, in this sterile hospital room, she felt small, vulnerable, and alone. Then, the door creaked open. "Hey, Theresa." Her breath hitched as she turned to see her ex-husband, Larry Caputo, standing at the door. His once familiar face was softer now, aged by time and past wounds. They had gone through so much: love, marriage, divorce, fights, and years of separation. She never thought he would come back, but here he was. Larry walked in and sat beside her, taking her cold hand in his warm, calloused one. "I know you're scared," he said gently, his voice filled with an honesty that made her throat tighten. "But you're not alone in this." Theresa blinked back tears. "Why are you here, Larry?" he sighed. "Because no matter what happened between us, you're still you. And I can't stand the thought of you going through this alone." A single tear slipped down her cheek. She had spent so many years pushing people away, burying herself in her work, in her gift. But in this moment, she realized that even in her darkest time, she wasn't truly alone. As the hours passed, they talked, not about the past, not about their mistakes, but about hope, about the future. Larry stayed by her side, holding her hand, reminding her of the strength she had forgotten she possessed. And when the doctors finally came to wheel her into surgery, Theresa took a deep breath. She looked at Larry, who nodded reassuringly. "I'll be here when you wake up," he promised. For the first time in weeks, she felt a flicker of peace. No matter what happened, she knew she wouldn't be facing it alone. However, Theresa Caputo had seen many families struggle with grief, but this time, the weight of sorrow belonged to 3 siblings, Lisa, Mark, and Rachel, who had lost both their parents within a year. Their mother had passed suddenly from a heart attack, and their father, unable to bear the loneliness, had succumbed to illness shortly after. Though time had passed, their pain lingered like an open wound, preventing them from moving forward. One afternoon, the 3 siblings sat in Theresa's warm and inviting reading room, nervously clutching each other's hands. "I don't know if I believe in this," Mark admitted, "but I can't shake the feeling that something is unfinished." Theresa closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. Almost instantly, she felt the presence of their parents. "Your mom is here," she said softly, "and she's showing me a heart-shaped locket." "Does this mean anything?" Lisa gasped, tears welling in her eyes. "She had a gold locket with our baby pictures inside. She wore it every day." Theresa nodded. "She wants you to know she never truly left. She says she hears you talking to her at night, Lisa." Lisa covered her mouth in shock. "I do. I tell her I miss her before bed." Theresa then turned to Mark. "Your dad is here too. He keeps showing me a baseball glove. He says he knows you felt guilty for not visiting him enough before he passed." Mark's eyes widened. I couldn't watch him fade away. I was scared." Theresa smiled gently. "He wants you to let that go. He says he understood. He never doubted your love." Rachel, the youngest, had been silent, tears streaming down her face. Theresa reached for her hand. "Your mom says you feel lost without them, like you don't know how to move on. Rachel nodded, barely able to speak. They're telling me they want you all to live your lives fully. They're proud of you, and they're always with you. A warm, peaceful energy filled the room, as if an invisible weight had been lifted from the siblings' shoulders. For the first time in a long while, they felt a sense of closure, not in forgetting their parents, but in knowing they were still loved, still present in spirit. As they left, Mark turned back to Theresa. "Thank you," for the first time. However, John and Lisa Thompson had been living in unbearable grief since their son, Michael, passed away in a tragic accident. He had been their only child, their pride and joy. The pain of his sudden departure left a void in their hearts that nothing could fill. Desperate for closure, they decided to visit Theresa Caputo, the renowned Long Island medium. They had seen her on TV, watched as she helped countless people connect with their lost loved ones. Maybe, just maybe, she could help them too. As they sat in Theresa's cozy reading room, surrounded by flickering candles and the faint scent of lavender, John held Lisa's trembling hand. Theresa closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. "There's a young man here," she said suddenly. "He's got this bright energy, full of life. He keeps showing me a baseball glove. Did Michael play baseball?" Lisa gasped. Yes, he loved it. He was the star pitcher of his college team. Theresa smiled. "He's showing me a game, the last one he played. He says he heard you cheering from the stands, Mom. He knows how proud you were." Tears streamed down Lisa's face. I never got to tell him how much I loved him before he." Her voice broke. Theresa nodded gently. "He hears you now. He says, 'Mom, you don't have to say it. I always knew. I still know.'" John, who had been silent, finally spoke. "Ask him. Does he blame me? I was supposed to pick him up that night. If I had been on time?" Theresa's eyes softened. "He's shaking his head. No, no, no. He's saying, 'Dad, please don't do this to yourself. It was not your fault.' He wants you to let go of the guilt." A sob escaped John's lips. Lisa squeezed his hand. Theresa hesitated for a moment, as if listening to something only she could hear. Then she smiled. "Michael says one last thing. I love you both, and I'm still with you. Every time you see a baseball, every time you hear my favorite song, think of me because I'm right there." Lisa and John wept, but for the first time in months, their tears were mixed with relief. They could feel Michael's presence, his love wrapping around them like a warm embrace. As they left Theresa's house that day, the unbearable weight on their hearts felt just a little lighter. They knew, somehow, that their son was never truly gone. However, it was a chilly December evening when Theresa Caputo walked into a cozy suburban home, invited by a grieving family seeking closure. The house was decorated with twinkling lights and a beautifully adorned Christmas tree, but there was an unspoken sadness in the air. A couple, Emily and James, sat anxiously on the couch, their hands tightly clasped together. Across from them, Theresa adjusted her signature blonde hair and took a deep breath. "I'm feeling the presence of a little girl," she said softly, her eyes closing for a moment. "She's around 6 years old, blonde curls, a bright smile. She keeps showing me Christmas presents, but she never got to open them." Emily gasped, tears welling in her eyes. "That's our daughter, Lily. She passed away suddenly last Christmas Eve. The presents are still under the tree, untouched." Theresa nodded, her voice gentle. "She wants you to know she sees them. She knows they were meant for her, and she loves them." James wiped a tear from his cheek. "We couldn't bring ourselves to open them or put them away. It felt like she'd be forgotten if we did." Theresa smiled warmly. "She's telling me she doesn't want you to be sad. She's showing me an image of her twirling in a sparkly dress, laughing. She's saying, 'Mommy, Daddy, Christmas is still magic. Open them for me.'" Emily let out a sob, covering her mouth. She loved Christmas so much. Theresa's expression softened. "She still does, and she's always with you, especially on Christmas. She's asking if you can share her gifts with another child who needs them." It would make her so happy. The room fell silent for a moment before James finally nodded. We'll do that. We'll make sure another little girl gets to experience the joy Lily would have. Theresa smiled. That's exactly what she wants. And trust me, when you do it, you'll feel her there, dancing, laughing, celebrating with you. As Theresa left, she glanced back one last time, feeling a wave of warmth surround her. She knew Lily's spirit would always shine through the twinkling Christmas lights, forever a part of her family's heart. However, Emma sat on the couch, clutching a photo of her late husband, Jake. It had been 6 months since the accident, but the pain was still fresh. Their 3 children, Lily, 10, Noah, 7, and baby Mia, depended on her, yet she felt lost, overwhelmed by grief and responsibility. A friend had suggested she meet Long Island medium Theresa Caputo, but Emma had hesitated. Could this really help? Now, sitting in Theresa's cozy reading room, she wasn't so sure. Theresa closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and suddenly gasped. "Oh, sweetheart, he's right here." Emma's heart pounded. Theresa smiled softly. "Jake is showing me 3 kids. He says, 'Emma, you're stronger than you think.'" Tears welled up in Emma's eyes. "That's what he used to say whenever I doubted myself." Theresa chuckled. "He's also mentioning pancakes. Sunday mornings?" Emma covered her mouth. "He made pancakes for the kids every Sunday. They miss that so much." Theresa nodded. "He wants you to keep that tradition alive. He's still with you, Em, every step of the way." Emma sobbed, but this time, it wasn't just from pain, it was relief. Theresa reached out, holding Emma's hands. "He's proud of you, and he says, tell Noah to keep playing soccer and tell Lily to keep drawing." "And Mia?" Theresa smiled. "Daddy sings to you at night, even if you don't hear him." Emma let out a small laugh through her tears. "He used to hum to her before bed." Theresa took a deep breath. "Jake wants you to know you're not alone. He's guiding you, and he wants you to live, not just survive." For the first time in months, Emma felt a weight lift from her chest. Maybe, just maybe, they would be okay. As she left, she whispered, "Thank you, Jake." And for the first time, she swore she felt a warm breeze brush against her cheek, as if he was whispering back. However, it was a quiet evening in Long Island when Theresa Caputo, the famous Long Island medium, felt an unusual energy swirling around her. She had just finished a private reading when her phone buzzed unexpectedly. A name popped up on her screen, Titus Burgess. Theresa squinted. Why is Titus messaging me? They weren't exactly friends, just acquaintances who had crossed paths at a charity event years ago. Curious, she opened the message. Titus. "Theresa, I don't know why, but I feel like I need to talk to you. Something strange is happening." A chill ran down Theresa's spine. Lately, her abilities had been acting up, spirits interrupting her at the most random moments. Was this connected? She replied, "Theresa, I was just thinking about you. What's going on?" Within seconds, her phone rang. She answered, and Titus's normally bubbly voice sounded uncharacteristically shaken. "Titus, I think someone's trying to send me a message. Weird things keep happening. Lights flickering, my piano playing random notes by itself, and last night, I heard a whisper in my ear. It said, 'Tell Theresa she knows.'" "Knows what, Theresa?" Theresa gasped. She closed her eyes, tuning into the spirit world. Almost instantly, an image appeared in her mind. A woman with deep brown eyes, dressed in an elegant gown, standing beside a grand piano. "Theresa? Titus, did you recently lose someone who was a musician?" A woman, very graceful, almost theatrical. There was a long pause, then a sharp inhale. "Titus, oh my God, that sounds like my Aunt Lorraine. She was a Broadway singer back in the day. She taught me everything I know about music. She passed last year, and I never got to say goodbye." Theresa smiled gently, feeling the warmth of Aunt Lorraine's presence. "Theresa, she's here, and she's telling me that she never left your side. She plays the piano to let you know she's still with you. She wants you to stop doubting yourself, Titus. She's proud of you, beyond words. Silence. Then, soft sniffling. Titus. I needed to hear that. Thank you, Theresa. Theresa wiped a tear from her own eye. Even after years of doing this, moments like these still touched her heart. Theresa. Anytime, sweetheart, and don't worry, Aunt Lorraine isn't going anywhere. As they hung up, Theresa looked out at the night sky, feeling a new presence beside her. Aunt Lorraine's voice whispered in her ear, "Tell him to keep singing." Theresa smiled. However, Theresa Caputo sat in her reading room, the flickering candlelight casting shadows on the walls. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and let the energy of the spirit world wash over her. The room grew heavy with emotion as three spirits made their presence known. The first was an elderly woman with silver hair and kind eyes. Theresa felt warmth radiating from her. "She's a grandmother," Theresa whispered, feeling a strong connection. Suddenly, the energy in the room shifted and she gasped. A young man, no older than 25, stepped forward next. His energy was different, restless but full of love. "He passed too soon," Theresa said, her voice trembling. "He wants to say he's sorry, but he's at peace now." She felt tears prick her eyes as she channeled his message to his mother, who was sitting across from her, already sobbing. The final spirit was different. A little girl, no older than 6, with bouncing curls and bright, innocent eyes. She giggled softly, and Theresa felt an overwhelming wave of love. "She says she still plays with her toys in the house," Theresa relayed to the little girl's parents, who clutched each other tightly, crying both in sorrow and relief. As the reading ended, the spirits faded back into the light, leaving only warmth and a sense of closure. Theresa wiped a tear from her eye and looked at the grieving family. "They're always with you," she whispered. "Love never dies." The room was silent except for the sound of quiet sobs and deep breaths. Another reading, another moment of healing. Theresa knew this was why she was given this gift.